5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm John Miglosh for the Wisconsin DMA and the International Society for Strategic Marketing. Well, the drum asks, how much do you know about WeChat? And when I saw that headline, I thought, I know almost absolutely nothing. What is it? Should I put it on my phone? Anyway, it turns out, and I have heard of it, but I didn't know much about it. It turns out that WeChat is like the organizational social media that connects especially China's businesses to the consumers. So I've always felt that Twitter was probably the go-to place if you were dragged off an airplane, or your peacock wasn't allowed to fly or something like that. One time I flew JetBlue and it got great service, and I tweeted it, and right away the company got back to me like within a minute or two. So companies are watching their Twitter feed just for damage control. But in China, it's much more integrated. Really interesting. I don't know if it's possible. I know businesses can now get official WeChat accounts. So I could get one for my business and see what's what here. Anyway, you can do mobile payments, e-commerce, mini programs, etc., targeted ads, content marketing, CRM, and customer service, all possible. And they mention that it's a closed platform, so it's a little more like LinkedIn, where unless you connect, unless I invite you to connect and you connect back, unless we both consent to that, we're not connected, and you see your friends' content and that of the brands you follow. So if you have an issue, you can follow a brand and reach out to them. And the whole world doesn't see it, just the people who follow the brand, as I understand it. And, take it with a grain of salt. So when you think about WeChat as a business, you might say, gee, we can put ads in the news feed, but if you're not followed, nobody will see it. Only the followers will see it. So instead, a lot of people are using it as a CRM tool. It lets you keep in contact, and they'll create mini programs like apps within it, and you're able to do payments at the same time. So there's a lot of here comes the payment stuff. This author says if Facebook Pay ever got going, like WeChat, we would have the potential to change the world. But who knows if it will? I argued that during the election, the ability of the Trump campaign to take orders within a closed, walled garden, they call it. So Facebook, you can place the ad, knowing something about the demographics. You can analyze the response with more demographics, because you're not targeting, you're just analyzing. And you can get the actual response of money. Unlike Google, where it kind of chops off, it doesn't know your margin, it doesn't know your return rate, it doesn't know anything like that. But Facebook, you can run the whole thing. And, there's more options for that in the future. But I just wanted to give you a heads up on that. Now, other news, Google sued over Voiceprint collection. Did you know that when you say, hey, Google, your voice is recorded and stored, which you authorize them.
Practicing some vocal warm-ups. Many mumbling mice are making midnight music.
Mumbling mice now. Anyway, we know they save that part. We wonder if they do the rest. It sounds like they not only save it, but they make it available for $0 and all of your privacy. So Illinois has a Biometric Information Privacy Act that says you can't store fingerprints, retina scans, and voice prints. I didn't know that. I think that's a really excellent idea, because I don't use the fingerprint because I've never been fingerprinted by law enforcement, and I just feel like, it's none of your business. It's, if I ever had to be, I would. It's not like some kind of big deal, but I don't store it on my phone. And voice prints apparently are equally specific. So here's the tricky part. Google was sued in the past for keeping face prints, but the federal judge in Illinois threw out the lawsuit arguing that there wasn't any concrete injury. See, I think that takes away the entire force of the law. Maybe true, but it's the potential injury. And that's the tricky part about data, is the potential industry. So now I want to do a shout out to David Rosendahl of Mindfire Inc. And he was the one who broke the stories on J. Jill and Nordstrom's, and where he was actually listening on the stock call in or whatever, joint call, shareholders review, and in both cases they admitted that they had cut direct mail and gotten in big trouble. So shout out to David. I hope to get him on the show next week, and that'll be great. I'm sure we'll have a lot of fun. He says that direct mail is coming back. I've argued this over and over and over, partly with his evidence, and that in the golden age, only half the households in America bought remotely. Nowadays, anybody pretty much with a credit card buys remotely, and so that level of resistance is no longer there. And I'll get into another article on that in a minute. Here's some of the big myths that I hear all the time. Direct mail has peaked. Now, of course, you can never quite say that. Big oil has peaked. Oil supply, they argued, would peak. And now it turns out we have more oil than we ever dreamed. So as more people discover mail, I think it's gonna hit peaks it's never seen before. But at the moment, yeah, it peaked about 3 years ago or something. Direct mail takes weeks to create. No, you can actually trigger it by who visits your website. And within 2 days, you can have an offer in the mail to visit the store, etc. One of the retailers I worked with, had real great success with this. It doesn't always work, and it's not everybody that visits your site. That's the biggest trouble, is that it's only it's a fairly small percentage, but where you can do it, it also uses people who've said, like, done the trial for Netflix that say I'm open to other offers. So it's people who've said I'm okay with getting offers. Hopefully we get more of those kind of offers so that we have more addresses that are in the public domain like that are triggerable. Marketers have stopped relying on mail. Every day I see evidence that the mail acquired buyers are 3-4 times more valuable. And this we found in 2012. We first saw it with one of my catalog clients, where the social media and influence acquired customers were worth a fourth of those that we had acquired with catalogs. And direct mail they say is ineffective. The QR codes are also making a comeback. Why? Because they've embedded the QR reader in your phone in the camera. So you no longer have to download anything. I think if I were putting a QR code on a postcard, I would have some little line under there. View this with your camera and click the link. You got to do both steps. You didn't have to, and that was one of the flaws in QR codes. It would take you someplace, and it could be taking you to a totally fraudulent thing. But now, at least in Android, it shows you the link, and you can copy it for later, or you can go there. But you have to click this. There's 2 buttons, and I always get them mixed up. So I would put a picture of the button and say, view with your camera, and click here. But once you get it down, it's pretty simple. So consider direct mail, and Summer says you can find new customers with targeted mailing lists. That point I was making earlier about buying remote and how every household in America that has a credit card, has any money at all, buys remote now on Amazon or on something. And so Summer points out that there's 2 main analytics perspectives. One is that you can describe what your customers like, profiling. We do that. and we do it especially with an eye toward geodemographic variables that might be important to your customers. And the other is predictive. And oftentimes the people who sell predictive say, well, we don't exactly know what it's finding, but it does lift response. And it does. I mean, I'll give it that. But if you saw yesterday's show, and if you didn't, I highly encourage you. It's guaranteed ROI with AI. I explain in a little bit how we've integrated those two in a much more effective way, I think, than either side. And there's actually a video on showing you how our system reveals and predicts. So way to go, Summer. I think along with mailing, the concept of mail, the idea of mailing to households, it's public information, it's geodemographically segmentable, as good or better than Facebook. It's a little more expensive, but it's guaranteed engagement. So way to go, Summer. I'm John Miglosh. Oh, special offer. If you're a member of the WDMA, you can get 15% off the print event in Minneapolis first week of August. I highly recommend it if you're considering direct mail. And if you're not a member, go to WDMA.org. Pay something. It's nothing. It's $20 a month for personal and $50, I think, for corporate or something like that. I mean, and then everybody in your company can be part of it. So I'm John Miglosh. Like and share. Consider direct mail.